Welcome to the Root of All Broth. I'm Kathleen Hill, and this is the show where we talk about the inspirations behind the foods that we cook. It's chilly, it's rainy, so what does that mean? It's soup weather. Let's get started. So now we're back in our warm kitchen, and you can see here I have something wrapped in foil. What I want to show you, this is the ham bone that was left over. Now you can keep a ham bone in your fridge for 3 to 4 or 5 days. After that, you might want to freeze it, or before that, you can freeze it too. Take a look about how much meat is actually left on this bone. If you don't know what I'm referring to, our last episode was on a ham, and you can go take a look at that there. I'll put the link in this video. But we saved our ham bone with plenty of ham on it, and we're going to go ahead and put that in our Dutch oven. Okay, now we have our ham bone in the Dutch oven. I'm going to add some water to this, and I'm going to cover the ham bone. And we're going to cook this on the stove covered for about 2 to 2.5 hours. Keep checking it. Make sure you're adding more water as time goes by. Check it every 30 minutes or so. Make sure you don't need to add more water. So if you can't tell from this beautiful bounty, we're making a wonderful vegetable soup. Vegetable soup is so easy to make. There's no exact measurements. You can use all kinds of vegetables. Today we're using potatoes, green beans, baby carrots, corn, and frozen fresh organic sweet peas. We're also adding beautiful fresh tomatoes, not only from our garden, but from our neighbor's garden. Soup is a wonderful thing to keep you warm. It's a wonderful thing to share. And it's a great way to save some of those vegetables, and also, like we said, that ham bone from last week when we made our baked ham. So let's get cooking and let's get started on this wonderful vegetable soup. Okay, I have my ham and my water on the stove. I have it on high. I'm going to bring it to a boil, then I'm going to cut it down to simmer for 2.5 hours. On the other eye, I have water boiling for my fresh tomatoes. I'm going to peel them. I'm going to show you how to peel those in just a second. Okay, I'm not going to add any seasoning to this water yet because the ham is really salty. I'll taste that once we take the ham bone out and all of that ham has come off the bone. Then we'll taste it and season. But for right now, it is boiling. After it boils, like I said, I'm going to cut it down to low, and then I'm going to put the lid on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about tomatoes. So I'm going to grab a tomato, and then we'll be right back. Okay, while your ham bone is cooking, we can go ahead and peel some tomatoes. You can use canned whole peeled tomatoes if you want to. This is 28 ounces, and we would use this plus about 4 or 5 fresh tomatoes. You could use 1 large can and 1 small can. I know that usually they just come in the large can, so I'd be like 1.5 cans. But really, soup is not hard. Like, you don't have to measure it completely. So it depends on if you have enough fresh tomatoes to use, what you want to use. So some people don't have fresh tomatoes at home, and that's okay. So first we're just going to take the stem out of our tomato here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hatch mark on the bottom, just like a little X. See that in the skin? So we're going to drop this tomato in boiling water for about 45 seconds. Or you can leave it a little longer if you want to. And then the skin is going to peel right off beautifully. And then you can put it in a bowl or anything to just hold it till we're ready to put it in the soup. We're going to continue hatch marking and removing the stem of each of these tomatoes. Then I'm going to boil them and peel them, put them in a bowl, and store them in the refrigerator. We're going to use about 4 or 5 of those, like I said, and 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes. Like I said, you can use whatever you want. It's going to take about 2.5 hours for that ham to get down to where we want it to be, so we can remove that bone. So until then, just store all your tomatoes in the refrigerator until you're ready to use. Now we can prepare our other vegetables. Okay, for this recipe, I'm using small red potatoes. I've already washed them and peeled them. I've just peeled the eyes off of them. I keep a little bit of the skin. I like to make it look rustic. I imagine when people used to go just get the potatoes out of their yard and then put it into the soup. So I like to leave a little bit of the skin on, but then I'm gonna half these. So again, I use 10 small red potatoes, and then we're just gonna half them and then put them in our soup later on. Okay, for this recipe, we're using 4 fresh ears of corn. I've removed the silk, and I've actually cut the corn directly off the cob here. Now, if you want to, you can use frozen corn. They have nice frozen organic corn niblets. That's fine to use as well. But I would not recommend using canned corn because it has more sodium added, and it's just been soaking in water longer, and it's not going to be preserved as well when you cook your stews or your soups for a long period of time. So either the frozen or the fresh corn will work perfectly. So our ham bone and water are already boiling. I just added a little bit more water because as it was boiling, it went down a little bit. I'm going to cover it. Like I said, I'm going to put this on low, and that's going to cook for about 2.5 hours. Now, our tomatoes. Like I said before, we're going to put these in here for 30 to 45 seconds. So this should just peel right off, these tomatoes. I'm going to put the hash mark side down first. There we go. And then as they heat up and then they cook, they'll be very easy to peel. So you can see I just put these in and look how easy that is. It's already starting to come off. Okay, we have our tomato. I've got cold running water. I'm just going to run this tomato right under the water. Look at this, guys. A beautiful peeled tomato. How easy is that? And they'll be ready right for our soup. So when talking about prepping your vegetables, I bought baby carrots this time, and this was about 6 ounces of baby carrots and 6 ounces of green beans. I have snapped the green beans. They're ready to go. That's all you need to do. You can use regular carrots and then chop them as well. I just thought I would try baby carrots this time because I like to have my vegetables to have a little bit of give. I don't want everything to be just soggy. And sometimes if you cut carrots too small, they'll just be just nothing. Same thing with your potatoes. So make sure that you're doing that. I've got my peas setting out just to come to room temperature so they'll be ready when we're going to add all of our wonderful vegetables. Okay, it's been about half the time. I'm going to check. You lift our meat out. You can see it's already coming off the bone. What you want to do is you want to look around for it. There you go, like a big fatty piece like that. And we're going to remove that fat. And we don't want to keep that in the bowl. Though it added flavor, it's just not going to stand the complete cooking time. Okay, it's been 2.5 hours. And you can see we've got a little bit of fat on the surface. You just want to skim all that fat off. Skim any fat that's on the surface. And then again, we'll do another dive for any fat that's down or connected to the bone. We just want to get all that off. And then any ham that's left in there, you can just leave it in the soup. That's fine. So we're going to lift up this bone here in just a second so we can take a look about how much of the meat is off of it. It should be almost all of it. I checked it a little while ago. Beautiful. It's ready to go. Okay, the first thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add the tomatoes. So we're going to go ahead and add this can of tomatoes. And you might be thinking, well, you have a lot of tomatoes over there. Why are you using canned tomatoes? Well, I'm making salsa later, so I'm going to keep those for the salsa. Then I'm going to add the rest of the fresh tomatoes. And I'm going to kind of crush those up when I get them in there. You can put everything that was in the can right in there with it. It's not going to hurt it. So I'm taking a potato masher and I'm just mashing these tomatoes down into the soup. If you did it in another bowl, if you smashed them or mashed them before you put them in the soup, you could just keep the juice that comes from them. I did it in there so all these good juices will stay in my soup. They don't have to be broken up completely. They're going to break apart as they cook because we're going to cook it for like another 1.5 hours. So these tomatoes will definitely sink down and kind of disintegrate. They won't be like a whole tomato anymore. Okay, the next thing we're going to add are our potatoes. When I tasted it, it's pretty salty, all this, but we can add more salt later. We're going to definitely add salt and pepper. Ooh, hot. And then I'm going to wait for the other vegetables until later because I don't want those to get too soft. So the tomatoes and the potatoes can cook along with the soup for about 1.5 hours. But when we have about 45 minutes left, I'm going to add all the other vegetables to this. But I'm going to go ahead and let this cook on low. I'm going to bump it up a little bit to about 4, and then I'm going to cook it without the lid on it. So it's been about 30 minutes, and I bumped this up to high so we could get a nice boil on this. I'm taking off any foam that rises to the surface. I just keep a bowl beside me. Any kind of grease you see, any kind of foam you see, because we want this to be a nice clear soup. And in about 15 minutes, I'm going to put in these other vegetables. But I just want to show you this step. It's important that you come back, you check your soup. I'm going to keep it boiling here for a while until I add the other vegetables. So now we are ready to put in the other vegetables. You can see I've cleared off any foam off the top. It's cooked down a little bit so we have enough room for everything in here. Right now I have it set on about 6. That was a nice boil, but not boiling over, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and add the carrots, the peas, the corn. I did salt this a little bit, so you'll need to like taste it at this point. I use about 8 ounces of the vegetables, but I kind of do it by sight, so I don't want too many peas. So I'm going to stir this up and just see if 8 ounces is going to be too many peas or if it's going to be a perfect amount of peas. Yeah, that looks really good. And then we'll add our green beans, and then we'll be ready. And this will cook for another 45 minutes, and then we'll be ready to serve. Okay guys, soup's ready. I'm gonna go ahead and just season it up here a little bit. Let me taste it. I'm gonna use my ladle, so I don't need the spoon anymore. The salt is good. I really don't need more salt. So I'm gonna add some fresh cracked pepper, and of course you can serve cracked pepper, black pepper. Black pepper's not for everything, but for this soup, black pepper is good. And you can serve it on the side if you like. Now let's serve it up. And here we have it, our wonderful vegetable soup made with the ham bone from the baked ham recipe a few days ago. We serve it with a wonderful southern cornbread, and for me, I like to dress it with a little Tabasco. My husband likes to add cheddar cheese. You tell us what you like in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed, why not? Do yourself a favor. We've got tons of episodes, tons of different recipes, from desserts to holiday staples. So thank you for coming by, and we'll see you real soon.